All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's monthly webinar series focusing on P.U.R.E, our P.U.R.E online rating system. Just to start in about that, P.U.R.E stands for Personalized Underwriting Rating Engine for us. It is our online rating system for our hard-to-place and / high-risk personalized property programs for both homeowners and dwelling fire business. It does not stand for P.U.R.E, the insurance company. Gets a little bit confused with that sometimes. So if you think that's what this webinar is about, it is not about that. We actually had the name first before they existed, so it is our online rating system, as I mentioned before. A couple housekeeping items about the WebEx. First off, everyone is on mute, so if you want to communicate with us, please use the chat features embedded in the technology. There is a Q&A section and a chat section that you can type us messages that we are monitoring throughout the presentation. To make the presentation full screen, depending upon your computer, the presentation is either in the bottom left or the bottom right. If you scroll your mouse to the top right of that presentation box, there should be two arrows pointing away from each other. If you click on that button, it should make the presentation full screen. And once you are full screen, to get out of it, you can either press escape or scroll to the top, and a blue menu bar will appear that will allow you to escape that full screen presentation mode. Questions. Please enter your questions in the WebEx chat or Q&A. We are going to have a dedicated Q&A section at the end of this call, but the point of today's purpose of webinar is to be more conversational. So if you have questions throughout, we'll try to stop when we see them and answer them as they come in, because we are going to be going through a couple demo quotes just to demo the system. So you can do that as we go through. We are going to have some trivia questions. The first to answer or get closest to the correct answer will receive a prize. It will be a $20 Amazon gift card that we will email to you directly to the email that you registered with the webinar with. We are recording this, so we are going to edit this up and then send it out. Give us a little bit of time. I still haven't finished the last webinar, so give us a week or two at least to edit this and then be presentable to send out to you, so that you can listen to on demand. If you need to drop off at any point, or if there's others in your office you'd like to share this with, you can go ahead and do so. We'll also send you all the slides as well, so you don't have to worry about that. Today's presentation, we usually try to keep these to 25 to 30 minutes. It's probably going to be a lot longer than that. We're probably going to go in the 35, 40, 45-minute range, because we are going to be going through a couple live quotes. And like I said, I'm trying to make it more conversational, so it might be a little bit longer. If you have to drop off, we totally understand. Just know that we will be sending this out to you, as I stated. We're also going to focus on California-based risk today. If interested in other states, please email us, and we'll get you the information needed for that. But we really write 100% of this in California, or not high 90s. We write a little bit in Arizona. We don't really do any business in Nevada, so mostly California. Joining me on the call today is Marcy Tabora, our Personal Lines Manager.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Marcy's been with us for
11 years.
11 years.
In personal lines.
And how long in insurance?
Prior to that, I worked, like you guys, on the retail side as a broker for a number of years as well.
Many years.
Many years.
I've been with Abram for 7 years now. I've been in the insurance industry for 9. So really enjoy it. My name is John Poucher. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager here at Abram Interstate. Oops. So quick agenda. We're going to go over the program appetite of the homeowners and dwelling fire products that we have, what types of risks that we write, how to quote and how to submit. That's where we're going to do a live walkthrough of the P.U.R.E system. We're going to go over how to bind coverage and then what happens after you bind, policy setup, the inspection process, etc. And then, like I said, at the end, we can have a dedicated question and answer segment. Excuse me. So this homeowners program is exclusive to our non-admitted Lloyd's business. As you'll see here, that our minimum coverage A is $100,000 and our TIV maximum is $2 million. And TIV is a term that we on the underwriting side use a lot. TIV stands for total insured value. If you roughly think about taking 180% to 200% of coverage A, depending upon the program, you're going to come up with your TIV roughly. So, if it's a $2 million TIV max, we're roughly going to take up to $1 million on a coverage A basis through this program. We do have a high value program that is suited to be quoted outside of this rating engine, so we can accept risks and quote risks up to any value that you can ever think of. Just not, doesn't really work in our online platform. We would prefer an Accord for that type of risk. We consider all protection classes. We have recently just amended some of our rating factors for more competitive rates, especially on lower PCs, so PC 1 through 5 banding, which you were seeing more and more of that business come through because of our rates, and we're having a lot more, a higher bind ratio with those types of risks. We write it on an HO3 and an HO8 policy form. We can accept risk with multiple losses, lapses in coverage. We can offer customized options based upon the risk. The nice thing about writing with Lloyd's and non-admitted is that it is kind of a bake your own cake policy, so we can turn up and turn down some of the coverages. They're not just set percentages like a lot of the admitted carriers out in the marketplace have. We consider all counties in California. We have no moratoriums in any place right now. For our dwelling fire program, we can accept a little bit lower coverage A. We can accept up to as down to $50,000 in coverage A value. TIV maximum is still $2 million. We can consider vacation rentals, Airbnb, anything that's tenant occupied. Replacement costs on contents is available. Again, all protection classes we can consider. And again, we've had more competitive rating on some of our lower PC banding business as well. We can name the property manager as an additional interest. That's been something that a lot of insureds and property managers and retailers have asked us to provide, so we're happy to be able to provide that now. And again, we can consider all counties in California. Will we write log homes?
Yes, we will.
Good question, Barry. Increased other structures offered. So say you have a tenant occupied and it has a couple other structures besides the main dwelling, we can offer increased coverage for that now, as we couldn't before in 2017. The types of risks that we can write seasonals and secondaries on an HO form.
Yes, we do write home and dwelling under an LLC, under a trust. Just needs to be formed for the purposes of family asset protection, not for something that's used commercially or for business.
And there you go. It's the second bullet point. Properties in the name of LLC or trust or corporation, we write. We write a lot of that business. Lower value homes with good maintenance. Properties on post and pier. Properties on slope. Log homes, dome homes, hobby farms. Risks on large acreage. Needs to be personal use only. No commercial operations going on the large acreage. Private lenders are acceptable. We can consider single family up to a fourplex. Older homes with acceptable updates and maintenance, and we'll talk in more detail about the older homes. And then the wood stoves as well. With a risk with a discharge bankruptcy within 3 years and multiple losses on of the same type. That requires underwriting approval, and it might require a form change in order to offer coverage.
An example of that would be if a customer had multiple water losses, we would want to know if they're coming from, the same type of loss each time, what's been done to rectify, has the damage been repaired, and, what updates were done. It's just a question that we need to ask to be able to, mitigate future losses that are occurring with that same type of peril.
So LLC for partnership investor is not acceptable?
It is acceptable. It's just the unit itself can't be used for business purposes. So, if you have a partnership or an investor that purchases home in the name of an LLC, and let's say it's, tenant occupied, that's perfectly fine. We do not have a market for a risk with open claims.
Any limit to number of stories?
No. No, we do 1 through 3. I don't think we've had anything higher than that, 3 stories.
I don't think I've ever seen.
We haven't seen anything that's
higher than that.
But we'd look at it.
Good for them if they got approval from the building codes to be able to.
I haven't seen one yet.
Write a 5-story house. Okay. So the P.U.R.E system, why use our online rating system? There was a big push, late 2000s, early 2010 to do online rating with all of your programs. All of our retail customers really wanted us to provide this. So this system actually goes all the way back to 2002, I think, is its inception date, and we did a refresh on it in 2015. But during that time, people really liked online rating. Then retailers seemed to move away from online rating for a while, and instead of just filling out accords, and then you can fill out one accord and farm it to multiple different outlets. Well, why we still think there's a lot of value in you going in and using P.U.R.E is there's the speed aspect of it. It is really, really fast. It's designed for these specific types of risks. So we're going to ask you a lot less information than if it's on Accord or if it's going through another online rating system. So it's just really, really quick. Through the system, we'll show you here in just a minute that you get an indication within 2 minutes. It's a much faster approval process. Marcy, you said, if they're getting it between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, they're usually going to get an approval or a response at least the same day.
Yeah, many of you, if you've quoted our Lloyd's program before, you've probably spoken with Audrey. She does handle the majority of the approvals through the P.U.R.E system. I don't think she ever shuts that system down. She is in it all day long. So if we have something that comes in and we have it in the P.U.R.E system, approximately 2 to 3 in the afternoon, like John said, you'll probably have an approval for it that day. If not, you would have it tomorrow, the following morning. So yeah, it's pretty quick because you're entering all of the information. We are just reviewing that and clicking the approve button.
Okay. All of your documents for binding are available immediately. All that data fills right into a quote sheet letter with a financing agreement and an application. So you have the documents available immediately. So you can provide to a lender, you can provide to your insured for signing and for binding. So you almost combine same day. So as long as you're getting it in the morning and everything flows through and approved, I mean, it can be a very fast process. So that's the advantages to using the system. And now we're going to go into a live quote. Okay, so to log into the system, we're going to start there, is you're going to go to our homepage at Abram Interstate Insurance, or abraminterstate.com, and you'll land on our homepage here. To log into the system, you're going to click on this Instant Quote tab in the top left corner of the screen. And this will land you on the page that houses all of our online rating systems. We have P.U.R.E, that's what we're going to go through here, Express Rater, AU Gold, TOPA, and USLI. See, we have a lot of online raters. So you select on home. And if you do not have a login, you can self-register here. If you click on that button, here's where you can self-register and create your own login. Oops. Of course, I'm going to mistype my own login. Let's redo this. So as you land in the home page, you're going to see all of your previous quotes lined up here so that you can pull them up. You'll see the status, one that's under review, one that's declined, an indication that it was incomplete, an approval, etc. And you'll see here that you're reviewing this month's submissions. You can also search here for older quotes via ID and name, dates, etc.
One of the things about the rater too is it does not matter when you did that quote. You could have done that quote 10 years ago. It's always going to remain in the system. It never goes away. You know, it doesn't like drop off in 30 days. If you have the quote number or you have the customer's last name and you type it in that quick search box that John's pointing to, you will be able to find that quote.
Yeah, and you can search by status, different, different ways to search the system. Here's where your profile is. It's very important. I want to point out here, you click on that and then drops down with, and there's My Profile. So go ahead and select on My Profile, that this email is correct. So what's going to happen is as you go through the system and you hit Submit to Underwriting, we are going to communicate back with the email that we have on file here. If this email is incorrect, you could send it to us, and then we can be approving it or declining it or responding to your inquiry, and you don't even know about it. So it's important that this is up to date and correct. All right. So now we're going to go through a quick homeowner's quote. Click. All right. So anything with a yellow I right there is a required field and will not let you go to the next page unless you fill out. So I'm going to put test. The zip code is 92129. This is down in Southern California, 1982. This risk is a protection class 4. So when you hit protection class, it will ask you the response time of a fire station. This is going to be critical information, especially for higher PC business. We want to know exactly how long it's going to take the responding fire station to get to that location. There are a couple ways to do that. The easiest way is to go to Google and go to Google Earth, Google the address of the risk, and then search nearby the fire station. If you just put in fire station, it will pop up. And it needs to be the distance of the time, the Google Maps driving time, from the fire station to the location of the risk, not the opposite, because it can vary. So it's really important information. So you can enter in that information, but for today's purposes, we don't need to enter in that information. Single family, primary residence. So update information is going to be very important, especially for all risk over 30 years old. If we do not have update information, you will not get an HO3 form. You will get an HO8 form. So this risk is over 30 years old, so we are going to put that it has updates.
And one of the things too, not only if you don't put any update information at all, like let's say the home was built in 1940, 1945, you will have an HO8 quote, but you probably will receive a response back from the underwriter to see if there's been any updates at all. Even though you're getting an HO8 quote, we still want to know what's going on with the updates. And there's occasionally some confusion where, if we talk about electrical or plumbing, that it hasn't been completely like ripped out and replaced. We're not looking for that. We're just looking for normal maintenance, servicing of the plumbing or wiring or, whatever it is, the updates are there.
Mm-hmm. On this first page, you can answer about loss information. There is no drop down here. Later on, there will be a drop down where you can enter in loss information if there has been one. Mortgagees, effective date, losses. Here are optional coverages. You can drop down and see we offer extended replacement. That's 125%, correct? 125 extended, and water backup of 25,000 available as well. So you go ahead and hit next. Difference between HO3 and HO8 form.
HO3 is a replacement cost policy, and the HO8 form is an actual cash value policy. I guess that's the main difference between the two, replacement cost versus actual cash value. And then the other main, restriction on the HO8 is there's no water coverage.
Yeah, it's a all perils form versus a named peril form, which is a very big difference.
Yeah.
HO3 is an all peril form, so it's covering all perils except for what's expressly excluded. An HO8 form is only covering what's expressly named. So that's a big difference. So if there's any vagueness in the two forms, an HO3 will usually cover it because it's covering everything, and an HO8 usually will not because it has to be exactly named. So you fill out one page of information, you get the basic information of a risk, you enter it, and it gives you an indication here. So this, I can't stress that enough, this is an indication based upon some rudimentary information about a risk. So we took the name insured, the zip location, and some dwelling amounts, and provided a rate. In this warning, we'll tell that expressly right here. This is not a firm quote. Binding cannot be requested at this point. All right. So this is more to let you know what our rough premium is going to be. That if you want to spend the time to fill out the rest of the application, we want to make sure we're in the ballpark. And if we're 3x the expiring premium or what you have in your hand already, you don't want to take the time to fill out the rest of the quote. But please note that this quote can change. And coming over to us, if it's a really good risk, you can ask for some credit authority because we do have some credit authority on our side. So as you hit next and you go through the screens, the price might go up if you add coverages. It might go down if you reduce coverages. So it just depends upon the rest of the information. So let's say you like this premium and you want to continue on and you want to hit next. On the next page is going to be about the applicant, so the information. So we don't even need date of birth yet. We're going to put the address. Whoops. No, we're not. I don't know what happened there. Autofill just did something weird on me. Sorry about that. There you go. I'll say the mailing is the same. If the mailing is not the same, then you can hit no and you can add the different mailing address here. The insured. Employment status, you want to hit employed. Is it a trust or LLC? Number of years, we'll say it's a new purchase, and you can put the previous address. We're just going to say 4 more years now. Are any of the applicants known individuals? Are they professional entertainers, professional athletes, etc.? We can write those, just describe in detail here. So we do write some of that business. We recently bound a NFL middle linebacker. So we've written Alex Trebek and others in the past.
Yeah.
Is there any additional applicants? Say no. And we'll hit next.
Additional applicant can be if you want the spouse listed as second named insured.
Yep. So here are our underwriting questions, right? So this is things that are pertinent that we're concerned about with underwriting and risks. So, we're going to go through each question line by line. You're going to get to know all of these questions. You'll be able to answer them very quickly, but for today's purposes, we do require all of them. They are very important. We're going to go through each of them one by one, and then I'll show you a shortcut after we go through all of them. So first off, is the brush clearance at least 200 feet? This one we're going to say yes, because we won't require 200 feet minimum. So for this risk, we're going to say it's a quarter mile. Is the applicant declared a bankruptcy or had a repossession in the last 3 years? We're going to say no. Does the applicant have a trampoline? So you can say yes, but there will be a full trampoline liability exclusion added to the policy if you say yes. So we don't decline risk because of a trampoline. We're just not going to cover the exposure. Is the property located on a slope of 35 degrees or more? We're going to say no. Has the applicant been convicted of any degree of arson within the last 10 years? Is there a max of, I missed that one.
The question is there a max number of named insureds or additional insured? It depends on the situation. I mean, we would be looking at how the risk is titled the property is titled.
What's the
So
insurable
if there
interest?
are, you know, 1, 2, 3 people that are titled on the property, they can all be named insured. If we get into a situation where you've got 6, 7, 8 people titled on a property, that's probably something that we would have to take a closer look at, because of the exposure. And sometimes we have situations where they list a bunch of people, but they're all within a trust or a corporation or whatever, and we just have the named insured listed as the corporation or the trust, and then all of those people fall within that. So it's not a hard no, but I mean, if it was several people, we would want to take a look at and see why and all of that.
Okay. Good question. Yeah, what's the insurable interest? Why? Why
Yeah.
do they want it? Is the property in litigation or foreclosure at present time? Say no. Is the property under construction or undergoing renovation? No. So if they are, we have a product. We have AU Gold. We have a product that can write that. So this drop down will come by that will talk about the information that's going on in the renovation. But we have a whole nother product and program that really does properties undergoing renovation much better than in this system. And that is called AU Gold. And that was back on this instant quote tab. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see AU Gold right here, and you'll see Builders Renovation. So they have a whole program and online radar set up specifically for that.
And for the homeowner, I mean, we do entertain looking at some very minor renovation work going on the homeowners program. There's a small surcharge for that, so it is something that we can consider. It's just currently not programmed in the P.U.R.E. to give the rate for that.
The accurate rate,
Yeah.
for that. Is the property located in an area condemned due to urban renewal, highway construction, or condition? So we'll say no for that. Eminent domain stuff. Is any business conducted from the premises? No. Does the property have any uncorrected fire codes? We'll say no. Is the property located within 300 feet of a non-residential property? No. If it's yes, we can still accept it, right?
Absolutely,
We just
yeah.
need to know what the business is.
We need to know what's going on,
Yeah.
make sure that we have clear boundaries and separations between the property and the commercial business.
So you might see this sometimes. This will require underwriter review. Just go ahead and hit no, and then in the notes right here, put what's going on, so that way we can understand what's going on. Doesn't mean it's a no by any means. Is there a swimming pool or spa on the premises? We're going to say no for this one, but we obviously write lots of those. Just want to make sure it's gated. Is the pool completely enclosed with a self-latching gate?
Yeah.
Yes. Is the pool empty?
Now, if it is empty, we will still write the risk, but we will implement a pool exclusion.
So there you go. You put yes, full pool exclusion will be added to the policy. So today we're going to say no. Is the property situated in more than 5 acres? We're going to say no for today. We do write risks again. So is the property used for farming or ranching? You put yes or no, and how many acres exactly. So as we stated before, we do write some of that.
Yeah, we have no limit on acreage whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Does the applicant own, keep, or shelter any animal? Again, you can put yes here if they have. Just note that all of our policies do have a full animal liability exclusion on them. So if the animal has a bite history, we can write it. We just had a question come through. Is backyard gate okay for pool, or have to be specific gate for pool area only?
It has to be, sometimes we write these risks in open areas where, the backyard is just kind of like open land. And so if the pool is back there and there's no fence around that property, it's just completely open, that's where we would put a pool exclusion. But if you have sort of a, normal residence that has a pool in the backyard and it's all fenced around it, that's all we're looking for.
So we'd write it either way. We just either
Yeah.
would throw a pool exclusion or not, depending upon what's going around the pool. So if you do have an insured that does have a dog or has a vicious breed, I highly recommend you write it with us, and then if you just Google dog liability insurance, there are 50 online providers that provide it for $50 to $100 a year. That's really cheap that you can direct your insured to cover that exposure. So, but we're going to say no. There's a home without permanently installed steps at entrance. We'll say no. Does the home have steps or porches over 2 feet high and height that do not have a railing? I'm going to say no for that. Has the insured zip code been a wildfire within the last 3 years? So this one right now we're working on updating within the system. If you put yes right now, it's going to put that, sorry, the applicant does not meet program's eligibility requirements. Half the state has been near a wildfire in the last 3 years. So we're working on getting that question updated. Just right now, put no. We know on our underwriting on our side where all the fires have been. We have historical fire data going back to the 1900s. So yeah, not to worry. Just make sure you always answer no on this question. Does the home have open eaves or non-covered vents? We're going to say no. Has there been any losses in excess of $25,000 in the last 3 years, no matter type or payout? Again, we can write risks that have had that. We just need to know what is going on. We don't know why, where the loss is from, all the detail on that. And we'll show you where you can put all the loss information going forward. So you're going to hit next. Oh, wait, I'm going to go back. Go back to previous.
Oops, I'm going to make you do that.
Here we go. Oh, they're going to make me do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's fill out this, and I'll show how to do that. So this one was 21, 29. Oops. Okay, let's say secondary heating. So there's no secondary. If there's a wood, where is it? Wood stove. There it is. Wood stove. Which some of our risks do end up having. Here's a wood stove questionnaire. Why don't you go over that? You know this much better than I.
Yeah, so if you have a wood stove as primary or even secondary, what we want to know is, what's the wood stove like? We're just verifying that it's a UL certified stove, that it's been professionally installed, and that it's, cleaned annually. It's free of like cracks, broken parts, any kind of air leaks. It's away from furniture. It's on a non-combustible floor. We're just making sure that, the wood stove is set up correctly, because oftentimes we don't have inspectors go in the home, but we just have you verify that it's in good working order. And
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. For electrical, circuit breakers are required. We do not write any risks on fuses or knob and tube. If they are going from fuses to circuit breakers, we can consider that on the builder's renovation product. We just need to have verification that they're actually doing that. They've paid a contractor. Contractor is going to do that work. Construction type frame, pretty much everything here is frame. It's a tile roof. You want to talk about the roof types for a second?
Yeah, roof type. So asphalt shingle, metal tile. We will look at a wood shake roof in certain areas of the state. We just need to look at every risk. There is going to be some areas that are remote that if they have a wood shake roof, we may not consider, not write, but certainly in urban areas or in town where we don't have a wildfire potential, we will write those wood roofs.
Yeah. Here's update information. You'll see missing or partial updates may change the policy you have requested. We talked about that earlier, going from an HO3 to an HO8. Let's talk about the location, protected devices. So this can give you some credits if you had central station available. Distance to fire hydrant, let's say less than 500 feet. For very rural risk, this is important. Is a risk gated or inaccessible for inspection? So if you're of a PC 9 or 10 risk, making sure that our inspectors can get out and see the property is very important. Because if you're a PC 9 or 10 out in, maybe a vacation home, it's important that our inspectors get out and see the property when they're there, because they can't always get out there. So if they can't get in, we're going to issue a notice of cancellation, because it can be difficult.
Yeah, the access to gated properties, which is actually common, as John has stated, in some of the more rural areas, The inspector will not go through the gate, even if the customer over the phone asks them to. They have to be led in by the customer. So if there is something that is blocking, flow to the property and they can't get through, the inspector will come back with an incomplete inspection report, and when we do receive that, we have to issue a notice of cancel, because we have to inspect every risk. So it's great to know that up front so that we can note that on our request to the inspector that there is a gate and that they can work that out with the customer so that, we can get it inspected on the first round.
Okay, go ahead next. This is coverages. So we already entered the dwelling amount. That flowed through nicely. You'll see the liability amounts, the med pay. Looks like our extended, no, it stayed there. Extended replacement stayed on. So all the coverages that we originally selected on that very first page stayed in place. So go ahead and hit next. So this is where you can add some coverages. This is for personal injury, workers' comp, and ordinance and law. Ordinance and law, please note, already comes automatically on the policy at 10%. This is if you want to add more coverage up to 25% of coverage A. So it already comes with 10% of coverage A. You put that, it adds it up to 25% of coverage A. Say workers' comp, we can include that, and then personal injury.
Workers' comp is also included. This is going to be additional workers' comp coverage for maybe several employees at the property.
These property limits aren't programmed correctly, so don't worry about these property limits over here. You can add inflation guard right here for 4% a year if you need, if you would like. Here's additional coverages. So right here, I'd recommend not filling that out and just adding this in your notes section to the underwriter. These are not programmed correctly, so the rating doesn't come through correctly, unfortunately. So something we're looking at changing and upgrading. So go ahead and hit next. Has the applicant been without insurance for more than 30 days? We'll say no. Some loss experience question. Has the carrier canceled or non-renewed in the last 5 years? No. Is there any open or unsettled claims? No. How many losses have been in the last 5 years? None. So what you can put and say they did have losses, we can say 2. And then the loss, you'll see where you can enter in the loss information down below. So you can enter in the type. Usually it is water damage. It's the loss leader for property in California. Enter the date, the reserve, the paid, the description, etc., etc. The more information here, the better. So please over-document it there. There we go. So we're just going to say no for now. Next. This is where you can put in mortgagee information. So the name of the bank, where it is, and the loan number. Are there additional insured endorsements required? We're going to put no. Can you describe what that is for everyone?
For what?
Oh, for this right here, additional insured endorsements required.
Yeah, so if you have somebody that needs to be listed on the policy, gosh, there's a number of reasons why, but it's not the lender, not a bank or financial institution, you would enter that information there. We don't get too much of that.
It's not common.
Change it.
There we go. So now we're down to the end, and this is how you're going to submit it over to Abram Interstate. So down here you're going to say, please select an agent. So this is yourself that you're selecting. Here's where you can put comments to the underwriter. About the risk, and then you go down and hit submit to underwriter. So it says the application process is now finished. Gives you the reviews. You may click the quote button down here, and this will give you the quote sheet and the finance agreement in PDF form. You'll see here all the premium calculation that came up to $2,400 by the coverages, all the broker fees, inspection fees, stamping fees, and surplus lines fees. Here's your additional coverages for personal injury, replacement costs and contents, ordnance and law, etc. All totaled up, top of the premium, gives you your total. A due report. I'm not sure. We just had a question come through. Are we able to run a clue report?
No, not through this system.
Not through this system. So we're going to. In addition, you can look at the application here. This gives you all the information that you just filled out, the applicant information, all the underwriting, the property information, the home coverages, all your optional coverages, loss experience, mortgagee information, and then it gives a spot for the application, applicant signature, producer signature, and it also provides your D1 form right here. Okay, so what happens now? You've submitted it to Abram Interstate. You will have gotten an email saying that it has been received. Let me take a look at it. So here's a version of an email you'd get. Your submission requires additional review. We will contact you within 24 hours regarding this risk. Thank you for your business. So that's a confirmation of receipt that you sent it over to Abram Interstate. And what it's going to look like once you've received an approval, you'll get an email through the system like this. Let's say email notification, your application has been approved by underwriting. Please email your bind request to binds@abraminterstate.com and all of the binding requirements needed once that piece of business has been approved. You need the application in D1 form within 10 days of bind request signed. Premium required to bind, so we do require premium with binding. We're going to go over this a little later. If it's paid through the lender or through ESCO, please state that on the bind request. Any other additional directives or supplements requested by underwriting. So, for example, if the risk is over 35 years old, we're going to require an older home questionnaire with binding. We'll go over where that questionnaire is as well here in a second. So, let's go back to the system. Oops. So we'll click home. And like we said, it can show you the status right here. So the one we just did is now under review. Here's one I've done earlier that is approved. We can go ahead and hit view print. We can view the application and look at the finance agreement that is down here. So here's the application. It's been approved by us. You can go ahead and have your customer present to your customer, have your customer sign, you sign, have them sign the D1 and provide all the items that are needed for binding, and then send that to binds@abraminterstate.com. Now for payment, we can accept payments online. So anywhere on our home page, if you go up to the top right of the screen, you'll see a green button that says make a payment. So what we need here is, it's requesting a lot of information, so it's a little bit confusing. The main items that we're going to need are the insured's name. So this time was test. And it's important that the insured's name is spelled exactly how it came on your quote. So right here, test. Here's the summary. Oops.
Yeah, and like, for example, you know, if you put in the P.U.R.E. rater that the person's name is Robert Smith, when you enter on your receipt, don't put, you know, Bob Smith. Make sure that it is just as it is in P.U.R.E. Robert Smith so that we can locate it.
And then the second most important thing is the amount. So the WebEx is preventing me from seeing that. You go ahead and hit the print. This will give you your print sheet again. And a premium of $21.0724.
That would be
24.
If you were paying for the entire policy in full.
Yep.
But if you are choosing the finance option, you're going to have the paid in full option, you're going to have a 4-pay option, and you're going to have a 5-pay option. and each of those options will give you what the down payment is. So just make sure you're putting in the down payment amount, not the total premium, because this is what the system is going to take from whatever account you use, either a checking account or a credit card account.
Yep. So you can use a credit card here. Just please know there's going to be a 3.25% fee on this, or you can pay by check, and it's a $3 fee right here, ACH check. So it makes it the total $21.10.24. Then you can enter in the information here. And where did that go? So then here, so we go down. Here's your finance agreement, and it will say what is due now. Choose to pay the 25% down and then finance this on 4 monthly installments or a 9 monthly. So it shows you the different down payments that are required. And does that include the tax and fees?
Yeah, it's everything.
It's everything, okay. So it's good. This payment amount includes all the taxes and fees, everything that's fully earned up front. Okay. So let's go back to PowerPoint. Okay. Now that we've gone through the homeowner's quotes, we have our first trivia question of the day. So let me get the chat and the Q&A. Looks like we might have missed a question here. Hold on just a second. Looks like we missed a couple questions. Let's take the time to answer them now.
Okay. First question. Let's see. Do you have a replacement cost calculator or accepting other carrier replacement costs? We do have one on our website that can be used, and we do accept other carriers' replacement costs. It's fine. We don't require that to be submitted to us. We verify replacement costs from the inspector going out and determining that as well. And so that's what we compare. So if you put 250, the inspector comes back at, 195 or 200, we keep your 250. If it comes in a little bit higher, we will raise coverage on that. But it's something that if you send over your replacement cost estimator, sometimes we will send that information back to the inspection company to reevaluate. I mean, it's not like the inspection company comes back and has a replacement cost and we won't go lower than that. We'll ask for your replacement cost estimator and then consider an adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a market for 2 separate units inside a condominium and shared walls? The units are tenant occupied only.
No, not for condos.
Not for condos. Can we insure a property that had an insurance lapse or didn't renew?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We do that several times a day.
Yep, lots of times. Okay. Get this screen over here. Okay, our first trivia question. So if you can get in the chat boxes and the Q&A question to send your responses. Question number 1, what is the minimum coverage A amount that we will write in our homeowners program? 100K, I've got one winner already. Hold on, who was that?
What was that?
Josh? Joshy, right?
Donnie.
Sorry, Donnie Everhart was our winner. Good job, lots of people got that right away. And that is correct. 100,000 is the answer. Okay. So here's the older home questionnaire. Again, let's see. I'm going to go back to our website. So here's where I went on our website. So at the top, this is stagnant throughout our entire website. So if you scroll to the top, if you hover over forms and applications, and then click on personalized ways of London, and then older home questionnaire right here. That's where I pulled that up, and that's where this popped up. Okay. Let's go back. Yeah, there we go. So any finance agreement, if applicable, and any special instructions on the email. There might have been other instructions besides the older home questionnaire as well. Then what? We will process the bind request and send you a confirmation of the bind with the policy number via email. An inspection report will be ordered within the first 72 hours of binding. We send an email to advise your office. Yeah, if any documents were missing with your bind request, we will email for those missing documents to prevent cancellation, so D1 form, signed application, etc. Okay. Question number 2, get your boxes out. What is the email address used for bind requests? Donnie.
Gosh,
Donnie. Let's see here. Is anybody else still on the call? What is the email address you use to send bind requests? Anybody remember? Bueller? There we go. Katie. We'll give you one too, Katie. Or actually, let me see here. Wow, all of a sudden we had a bunch come in all at the same time. And everything's frozen. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. Yeah. And the answer is binds@abraminterstate.com. That is correct. All right, we're going to go through the inspection process real quick. So what our inspectors are looking for, they're going to look for that brush clearance. That's going to be very important around the property and other structures. So if you stated there's more than 200 feet of brush clearance, they're going to be looking for that. And if there's less than 200 in any place, they're going to take pictures of that and send that to us. Trees are trimmed back from the roof line and nothing's overhanging. Any dead trees that are present or around the that are near the structures, especially in brush zones. Propane tanks are cleared of vegetation on or around the tank. The roof is clear. Roofs are very, very important. I was lucky enough to go visit some of the devastation up in Redding, California. And there was one neighborhood where the fire went into and got some of the homes, but not all of them. You can tell by the type of roof and the debris around the house if there was pine needles, if their gutters were full, if there was lots of stuff around the house. Those houses burned, and the ones that were clear, in good condition with clean roofs, they survived the fire. So you can see the difference it can make in a big event like that. You know, the condition of the property, upkeep looks good. You know, just pride of ownership is important. Wood piles moved away from the residence. You know, there's no fuel stacked up right against the side of the house. No appliances, junk, debris, and yard around property. I mean, that is really important. As I reviewed some of the devastation, you could tell properties that had multiple vehicles on the property, you know, cars on that were lawns probably, that became combustible items in an event like that. So, you know, think about a car that has gas in it that can then become a combustible item that explodes and then, you know, sets the adjacent property on fire. So it's very, very important as we're looking at these and underwriting these.
Go up to number 1 just real quick before we go to the next screen about brush clearance. Sometimes there's a little bit of a confusion on what brush is. When we look at inspections to see clearance around the property, we're looking for that low-lying brush that is almost like ground cover all the way up to the property. Like, you know, chaparral, things like that. We're not looking for the fact that there are, you know, trees on the property. We do not consider trees to be brush. It's just that low-lying vegetation that can be used as fuel in the event of a fire. So we look for that, and then John did mention the roof. That is very important, that the roof and the gutters are cleared of pine needles or other debris that can also be used to start a fire if embers were to fly onto the property. That's what we're looking for, is to make sure that those type of things are cleared to help mitigate a loss.
They are. And the realities are right now the insured needs to play a bigger part in their risk mitigation of their property. Insurance companies around the state are losing money with the amount and the activity and level of fire that we've had. So those insureds that do not want to take good care of their property are going to have a much harder time finding good insurance coverage. So it's just a really important communication to your insureds currently. All right. Here's a couple examples of inspections that we have. I'm just taking a look at. This is a little bit of an older home right here.
But I mean, we look at this risk and the roof looks nice. You know, the front yard is fine. All of this looks fine. It's an older home. But we look at this risk and wouldn't have, you know, any issue with it. This is another one that we did have an issue with. The window, you can see the broken steps, which are a liability concern, the junk out in the backyard, and, you know, just some overall maintenance concerns. Now, at first glance, you look at this and, you know, you may think that it's not something that we would continue with. We did have to issue a cancellation on this policy for the maintenance concerns. However, you know, the customer did clear it all up. They fixed the steps, they fixed the window, they painted, they did some stuff and took care to the property, sent over the photos that it had been corrected, and we reinstated the policy. So, I mean, we're not looking to, when we have to cancel, we cancel based on, you know, what we have to for underwriting, with the intention that if things are corrected and fixed, that we will absolutely reinstate. That's the bottom line of what we want to do.
Okay. Well, that's the end. We went a little long today. Thank you, guys. We went almost an hour, so just over an hour. My goodness. So thank you so much for all your time today. I really appreciate it. We'll open it up to question and answer sections now. Thank you so much for your business. And just go ahead and input any questions that you have into either the question and answer section or the chat section. The slides of the presentation, yes. I will be editing up the video and the slides of the presentation afterwards. Yeah, Donnie, I'm just realizing that right now. It looks like I will fix that. Looks like when I went over the dwelling fire quote, I did not share the screen properly, everyone, so I will fix that. I'll cut up the video and do a demonstration of that. Maria, we are recording the webinar, and we will send it out. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Curtis. Any other questions? Do we have an online rater for standalone auto? Donnie, we do. It's called Express Rater. You can go right next to where P.U.R.E. is. It's right below it, and you can request a username and log in there. I can send it to you offline too. I think that's it. All right, I don't see any more questions coming in. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye.